All right, everybody, we are back with some week 2 previews, and we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. The first game is Chris and No More, who is 0-1. His points for are 204 and 29. His points against were 322 and 91 against Wolverines, who's 0-1, and his points were also pretty shit. 203 and 0.79 versus points against were 279 and 0.04. And as we did it in LOD and LOC, we do have a median breakdown. The median breakdown for TRD is 269. What that means is if you would have scored above 269.3, if we would have turned the setting on, you would have got an extra win. And both these teams are pretty damn low below that. So it's about 50, 64 and 65 points each. In my opinion, like I don't want it to be any of these teams. And looking at the two rosters real quick, you got Joe Burrow versus Derek Carr, and obviously those are two good running quarterbacks to have. But this is TRD, and everybody has good quarterbacks. There's only 16 teams. Looking at No More's team, you got Joe Burrow, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Pickens, Juju, Peoples Jones, which that's kind of where it starts going downhill, and Jared Everett, Zeke, Pringle, and Rashad Penny. And his second quarterback is Baker Mayfield versus. Hold on, I just gotta hit this little button real quick. Derek Carr, Javonte Williams, Najee Harris, McLaren, Devonta Smith, Hunter Renfrow, Kyle Pitts, Kenyon Drake, KJ Hamler, KJ Osborne, Jared Goff, and pretty decent IDPs for both teams. I'll be honest with you. I don't want to have any of these teams. I think they both underperformed last week, though. I think it's really going to come down to Najee Harris. How healthy is he? Does he actually play? Devonta Smith, does he actually get any balls thrown to him? Because all the balls went to AJ Brown last week. Monday Night Football, and I originally had. Let me actually see who I originally had to win this one real quick. I had No More's losing, and I'm just going to stick with that because it's a coin flip to me.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you when I look at this game now too. It does kind of look like a coin flip. I originally had No More to win, so I'm going to stick with it. I got the side bet with No More that I would finish better than No More though, so I do want him to lose. But I think Burrow does have a bounce back game. I think Nick Chubb is the best running back in the NFL, and I think he's going to have a huge game against the Jets with the big brownie, the elf at the 50-yard line for Cleveland, voted on as by the fans. And I also maybe we were all surprised. Rashad Penny did look like the one there. It does sound like Kenneth Walker's coming back, but at the same time, he's coming back from a hernia surgery. It might take him a while to get accustomed to doing what he needs to do. Baker Mayfield in New York. I mean, yeah, the revenge games didn't work out for Baker or Russell Wilson, did it? But I have a feeling both are going to rebound and get the W this week. And I think No More will get the W because of that, even though I do like Derek Carr on the other side having a big game for Vegas in the home opener. I just think No More is going to find a way to squeak this one out.
Next up, we have Bills Mafia, who's 0-1, and those are your points for. He's 233 and points against 295 versus Suihino, who is 0-1. His points for were 251 and his points against were 270. I'm actually surprised Suihino scored as many points. Well, I'll say I was surprised, but then no matter what league it is, he always has great IDPs and scores a shit ton of points. Looking at those two teams, none of them would have gotten that extra point, though, that if we would have turned that setting on, because the setting was, again, 269.3. Looking at the two teams, you got Tua versus Davis Mills, James Conner versus Delvin Cook, Travis Etienne versus Damian Pierce. And where I think Suihino could have a chance, I'm not saying that he is my pick to win this, it is that he has Jamar Chase going up against CeeDee Lamb. When CeeDee Lamb, he might be fed the ball, he might not be fed the ball. It really comes down to what Cooper Rush wants to do there. And I have Suihino losing this one because I think the quarterback situation is better for Bills Mafia with Tua and Mitch Trubisky versus Jacoby Brissett and Davis Mills, because Tua is probably the best of all three. And Mitch Trubisky might be the best one out of the rest of them, or at least on par. So that's really going to come down to. I think the rest of the lineups are pretty decent because you have Braxton Burrows, who really cares, versus Robert Woods, who I don't actually think. Yeah, he had 2.6 points last week, so they kind of cancel each other out. I think it's gonna be a low scoring matchup. This is definitely different than his LOD team, not high scoring, and I think he still wins, but I think it's gonna be close.
Yeah, it could be a close game, but I don't think so. I think Bills Mafia wins this one easily. I think his team grossly underperformed versus me last week. And I think he finds a way to rebound. And I think, looking at the matchup, it is the clear winner. It's the quarterback battle. I think Trubisky has a better game in the home opener for Pittsburgh. And Jacoby Brissett, I mean, he's not going to get you any points. I mean, he might not get you minus points. He's kind of one of those game managers, but a horrible game manager, and not the kind of guy that you want to have in fantasy. And, when I look at Bills Mafia's lineup, I do kind of like the fact that he does have Jordan Brooks, who's always been known to be a tackling machine. Holcomb's there, Malik Reed, right? So he's under the radar here for Bills Mafia. I think it might have been a waiver wire pickup, but he's the TJ Watt there now, right? So we'll see if he can lead that to production. I'm going to go with Bills Mafia just because Suihino isn't a very good team in the flex spot, is what I can see. So
For sure. Moving on, we have Mac and Cheese, who's 0-1, 243 and 311 versus Brighton Panthers, who's 251 and 268. I think Brighton Panthers team has grossly underperformed last week. When you have Justin Herbert and Aaron Jones as your two quarterbacks, and you only put up 251 where the scoring is in favor of quarterbacks, you have underperformed, grossly underperformed, because your running backs, Patterson scored 30-some points. Gibson scored 20-some points. DK Metcalf, I believe he scored about 6 points. He's underperforming as well. Mike Williams, he scored 2 points, who's wide receiver 1, in my opinion. Now he's definitely wide receiver 1, no matter what. Even with Keenan Allen in there, I think he's wide receiver 1. Sammy Watkins going up against Matt Stafford, who is a good quarterback. Looked like crap last week. I think in TRD, he actually scored positive points, 7.8. And that tells you how the scoring is different than the LOC. Because LOC, I believe he scored -2 points. Commissioner, you can correct me if I am incorrect, but I believe it's -2 he scored. Joe Mixon. And then Mac and Cheese does have Breece Hall, who looked like Breece Hall. He looked like he has talent. If you watched, I don't know if anybody you watched the game, Commish. You watched the game. The dude has talent. He's just not getting the opportunity to run the ball. He had 6 rushing attempts, 23 yards. That's about 3.8, 3.9 yards per carry there. He did have 6 receptions, but he did lose a fumble in that he got 10 points. And going to what we always predict in LOD, if you have the 2 best quarterbacks, you should win most of your games. And that is why I'm sticking with the Brighton Panthers to win this one.
Yeah, Brighton Panthers lost Dirk, Dink, whatever we want to keep calling them here. And of course, that's an embarrassment event in itself, just like with all the off-season storylines we've had with him. Stafford got minus 1.2 in LOC and LOD, I believe it was. Why I don't like Mac and Cheese is because he's got Kenny G and Wandale Robinson as offensive centerpieces in his lineup. And you're not going to win games with those two guys. The other thing that I'm really going to like for Brighton Panthers this week, no Keenan Allen for the Chargers. So I expect a lot of Herbert to Mike Williams double dips, maybe even 2 of those, right? There's no better feeling when it's our quarterback to our wide receiver, right? I mean, you get 12 points right there. And I always like to call that the double dip. And I think the double dip will work for Brighton Panthers this week. I have Mac and Cheese falling 0-2.
Next up, we have this battle of the commission part 2, because in LOD we are also playing each other. So we have myself, who is 1-0, who's 270.01, who I just beat the median, versus you, stupid is as stupid does, who's 295 and 233. I had originally had myself picking this one. I think it was wishful thinking. I think you're going to win this one. I think you win this one easily. And I'm not going to say that because I think my team does still score about 270. I just think your team's that good, and you don't even need to have your second quarterback, in my opinion. I think Hunt is playing the Jets. I think he's going to score, up again another 25, 28 points for you. Chase Edmonds, I think, scores about 10 points for you as well. And then you have the man, the myth, the legend, the best player in fantasy football, Justin Jefferson, who is going to score about 100 points. And that's why you win. And it doesn't matter. You got
Yeah,
Justin Jefferson and you win.
I originally had myself too. And my team actually surprised myself last week. The fact that I beat Bills Mafia, I had myself losing that one. So I did originally have myself winning this one, so I'm ahead of the curve. I think you're absolutely right. Justin Jefferson, I picked him first round for a reason, because I knew he was going to have a huge year. And clearly he's already off to a hot start. Disappointment with Njoku, Pollard, and Mooney so far. Mooney, I think, got me 1.6, which was a disaster. I'm still having a challenge of, do I go Josh Palmer or Jahan Dotson in that last flex hole? Right now I have Palmer because Keenan Allen's out, but I might flip-flop that out. Either one is a great replacement for Eli Mitchell, who I obviously lost to the IR. But guess what? I also have Jordan Mason on my taxi as my security blanket. I'm going with myself. Sorry, dude.
That's perfectly fine. But I also would start Jahan Dotson over probably Mooney. And next up, we're just going to move right along. We have future rookie of the year, who's 266 and 280, versus Senior Sundays, who's 370 and 284. And I believe Senior Sundays had the most points scored last week. Yes, he did. He had the most points for. And let's just be honest, I have Senior Sunday winning this one. I think he has a hell of a team. In my opinion, he doesn't have the two best quarterbacks, but he does have. Let me just pull it up real quick. Russell Wilson, who, I mean, he scored 34 points last week, and that is not too shabby. I mean, and then he also has Jameis Winston, who is going to get you some garbage time touchdowns, who scored 30 some points going up against Kyler Murray. And if it was Kyler Murray and somebody else, I think maybe, I don't know, it doesn't matter, even maybe Geno Smith. But he has Marcus Mariota, and he's playing the Rams, and I think the Rams do have a bounce back game. I think they're pissed off. They lost. They got embarrassed. Yeah, they lost by 31, 21 points, something like that. They've been embarrassed. They're going to come back. They're looking for that primetime game, even though it's at 4:05. But there's only 3 or 4 games going to be in that time slot, so people are going to be watching. They're going to know that, and they're going to bounce back and stifle Marcus Mariota. And yeah, even though I think C-Mac does have a bounce back game and Kamara has a bounce back game as well, I just think Caesar Salad, I mean, he has Diggs and Cup, and that's why he wins.
Yeah, Danny. So you gave him a hard time about his career record in the LOC, but man, has he ever announced himself in this league? And I mean, things worked out for him. Like the one thing that worked out for him, Henderson, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is he the RB1 for the Rams? That looks like it. Sterling Shepard, I mean, had like a 50, 60-yard bomb touchdown. Julio Jones, this guy looks like he's 25 again. And, the other side of the equation here is looking at future rookie of the year. I mean, Kyler Murray got the big money, and I honestly think they put that clause in his contract for a reason, right? And he got the big money. We saw what they did against Kansas City. It was a joke. And it's not like I know Hopkins is out, etc., but they still have some weapons there. I originally have Danny to win this one, and I'm excited to say I got Danny again to win this one, to continue his winning ways. Even though I want Asadul to win because Danny is in my division.
Next up, we have likely losers, who's 1-0, 3-11, going up against Covington Pythons, who I would never believe I would be saying this, who is 1-0. He did score below the median, so he would have lost to about 8 or 9 teams. He scored 268 and 251 is his points against. And Kimish, I'll let you start.
Well, I know Dink got online there and said that, he did better than what we said, that he wasn't even going to get a single win. I do have him going 2-11 this year. I do have him losing this game, though. I think likely losers is the better team. Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, these are two really great young quarterbacks to hopefully build your future off of, versus Mac Jones and Carson Wentz, who I don't think are great quarterbacks to build your future off of. On the other side for Dink, Also, when I look at Dink's team, he's got guys that are going to take time to develop. Garrett Wilson. All right. I said, it's going to take time for these rookies to get in there, and it will. Isaiah Pacheco, another one. It's going to take some time. Does Michael Gallup come back for him? That might give him a bit of a boost, possibly. I mean, he's coming off ACL surgery, so it's hard to see how he does. Leonard Fournette has a hamstring issue. I think that's going to be a problem for Dirk as well. Likely losers wins this one. Stewart finds a way to go to 2-0.
I agree with you. I think Stewart wins this. I actually also had Covington Pythons going 3-11, which we all know you didn't do week 14. Not a big deal. Looking at the matchup, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Patrick Mahomes, and does it really matter at that point? Because he threw 5 touchdown passes, but he also has Trevor Lawrence playing Indy. The question for me is, does Indy actually bounce back and stop quarterback? They had a tie last week. I mean, they're supposed to be a top defense. Trevor Lawrence did throw, I believe, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, scored 20 points. I mean, on the other side, the reason Dinkman actually scored points is because Carson Wentz got 40-some points, 46.82 points. And honestly, I think this game's going to be close just because Carson Wentz is playing Detroit. And I think they're going to let up some touchdown passes. I think it's a high-scoring game as well. And I can see Carson Wentz throwing 4 touchdowns. And I think when I originally had this matchup, I thought there's no way he gets anywhere close to this. I think he loses by less than 10. And I think he's going to shock the world. He might win 5 games. If Wentz plays as Wentz can play, he can win some games. And that's what it's going to come down to. And next up, we have Bare Naked Ladies, who's 0-1, but did score over the median by 15 points. Going up against Steam and Beeman, who's 1-0, who's 280 and 266. And Kamish, I'll let you go ahead and start.
Yeah, just another example of a Michelangelo team playing a team out of the Donatello, and where I want the obviously Donatello team to win, but unfortunately I do not have Steam and Beaming to win this one. I do have Josh and Bare Naked Ladies to win this one. I do like JT. I like Austin Eckler versus Khalil Herbert and Rex Burkhead, right? So, I mean, I know Burkhead could be RB1 there, but again, it is Houston. On the flip side, though, you look at the receivers. And again, Steam Beeman receivers don't scare me either. AJ Green, but then there's Kadarius Toney on the other side with only 7 snaps. I think, even though Steven Beeman did win last week, a big part of why he won is exactly what you said. It's quarterback-driven league. And Josh Allen basically won the game for him last week. Brady struggled. If Allen and Brady both get going, Steven Beeman's going to be a hard team to beat, though. And that's the honest truth. I think Bare Naked Ladies, though, does enough with the legs of Hurts and Justin Fields at the quarterback position. And I originally had him to win, and I'm high on the Michelangelo division. The other thing I will add, too, is I believe Steven Beeman also lost Keenan Allen for this game, so that's going to hurt his wide receiver production as well.
That is correct. He did lose Keenan Allen, so that is going to be a struggle for him. I think you hit the nail on the head, but you also missed the very big hole. We did say Justin Jefferson is fantasy player number 1. Fantasy player number 2 is on Bare Naked Ladies of Jonathan Taylor. And I think a mixture of Jonathan Taylor and Austin Eckler, who is playing KC on, I believe, Thursday night game. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I believe that is the Thursday night game. He's going to look to bounce back. He only had 30-some yards. 30. I think he had 36 yards rushing, and I believe he had the same number of receiving yards of 36 as well. That is correct. He did have the same number of yards both, but I think he's going to bounce back, and I think Jonathan Taylor, Justin Fields, and then the ultimate fantasy football quarterback of Jalen Hurts, who I think is going to be in a shootout game against Minnesota, is going to push the win for Bare Naked Ladies here. If Keenan Allen was playing, I would say it'd be closer, but I don't think this game is going to be close, and I think it is a win for Bare Naked Ladies. And the game of the week, we have the Architect, 322 and 204 against his brother, The beta 1-0, 279 and 279, which I probably is not correct. So I actually don't know. You did not have a tie. So one of those numbers is wrong, but I'm going to assume it is the points against. And I'll tell you real quick. He had 205.79 scored against him. So I did have messed that up. I apologize. But the reason this is game of the week, I think this is the very first matchup in every league, in any league that these two brothers are in, are playing each other. So that is why it was game of the week. The winner gets bragging rights. You can say, "Hey, I beat you, and your team sucks." And I'll be honest with you, I originally had the Architect winning this one. Funny enough, their initials in my book are TA and TB. Obviously, the Architect is TA and A is before B, so that makes him better, and that is why he's going to win. And he's older too, I believe.
I love it. I think that the Architect is still going to find a way to win too. I think he had some major injuries. Let's face it. It's not a great week one. Like, it's bittersweet when you win week one, but then you also lose Dak and TJ Watt in the same week. I mean, that sucks. When I just look deeper into the lineup, as you look deeper in, I see Devontae Adams there for Brandon. I see Cortland Sutton. Both Sutton and Judy had decent games against Seattle versus Olave, James Proch, who I believe played 5 snaps for Baltimore. And I know this because I have him in LOC. I was high on him. They all said he was looking like the WR2 guy. Comes out and plays 5 snaps. You can't have a guy that's going to be playing 5 snaps dressed in your lineup against a good owner like the Architect and expect to win. Your team has to usually be pretty deep because we know Brandon's a good owner and he's the defending LOC champion. And I'm definitely going to say that Lamar has a big game at home because he wants the big money. And that's going to get good big points for the Architect as well and win the brotherly love battle.
For sure. I mean, just looking at Team Lamar Jackson, as you said, I think he has a big game. And then looking at, you got Saquon, you got Harris, Christian Kirk, Curtis Samuel, who, let's be honest, the Architect's been saying he's going to have a good year. He put up almost 20 points. Brandon Cooks, who's just fed the ball, Conklin, Sutton, Devontae Adams, Gabriel Davis, like the Dortch, versus Matt Ryan, who is a big thorn in my side, but he did score 20-some points. You're right, Proch, he played 9% of the snaps, whatever that is, 5, whatever. I'll agree with you there. Ingram, who, in my opinion, is kind of washed up. I think Kamara is going to have a bigger game. They're going to try to feed Kamara because he had a horrible game last week. Olave, I kind of like. Freiermuth, you know that I like, because we do have that bet. Freiermuth versus Njoku. DJ Shark. I think playing Washington, he's actually not going to have the 52 yards and the touchdown that he had last week. Elijah Moore, until Zach Wilson gets back, I think he is not worth putting in your lineup. But he does have AJ Brown, who every damn pass that Jalen Hurts threw went to AJ Brown. But I don't think that's good enough. I think Trey Lance going to Seattle is actually not a good matchup as well. I think Seattle is actually playing to win games. I know your brother said that it was, hey, this is the Super Bowl for Seattle, but I don't think that's the case. I think they're actually going to play. They're actually going to go into San Fran. I think they're going to want to try to win that one and go 2-0 and actually play their hearts out. It looks like it might be a little windy there as well, so that might be another game where there are a little bit of running, not too much passing. As I said, the Architect's going to win because he's TA, he's playing TB, and I think his actual lineup is actually just better anyway, and that is why he's going to win.